If you are even thinking about buying or selling a home anywhere in Spring, Texas right now, well then this market update literally could save you thousands. Because if you're relying on national headlines or outdated data, you're gonna miss out on what the truth is about what's really going on here locally. In this video, I'm breaking down everything you wanna know about the Spring, Texas housing market for June 2025. That's right, folks, as current as you can possibly get. We're talking about prices, trends, home buyer activity, and which neighborhoods are heating up. So if you're planning a move this summer, this might be the most important video you watch. Well, my name is Jake Johnston, and I'm your favorite Houston area realtor, and if I'm not, I probably should be. Folks, I'm talking to people every single week, families just like you that are buying within our local community or relocating from out of state. They all want to know what's going on the ground in Spring, Texas, as far as housing trends, interest rates, where can they get their most bang for their buck to protect their best investment. And they're reaching out to me every single week at 281-660-4797. Call or text, drop a comment below, or please take a moment to download one of our relocation, home seller, or home buyer guides in the links below. So whether you're planning a move in the next couple of weeks or next couple of months, having the right info and the right guide can be the real difference maker. So if you've been watching my videos, you know we're gonna break this down into 7 different categories that you're gonna wanna know about what's trending right now in the Spring, Texas local real estate markets. So let's get to it. So the first thing naturally we're gonna talk about are what is going on with the home values here in Spring, Texas. Let's break down the median housing prices right now. Okay, so what we are seeing, there's a little bit of a discrepancy in what we're seeing in terms of the actual median list price versus the median sales price. You're gonna catch a trend going on right now, and I don't know about you guys watching what's going on around this market, but it's got my head spinning a little bit. When I break these numbers down, you'll understand why and how we work through it to put you guys in the best position to win. So what we're seeing today in June of 2025, the median list price for Spring, Texas is $425,000. If you contrast that to the actual sales price of $398,000, you're gonna notice that right now there are some discounts being negotiated, which is not uncommon, and I'm gonna break these numbers down a little bit further, so let's keep going. All right, so let's take a step back and compare what does this year look like compared to last year, because I think it's actually gonna give you a little bit of confidence, because last year we saw in June of 2024, the median sales price was around $404,000. So when you look at that compared to this year, we're down just slightly, maybe 1.5% or something like that. But if you go back to the beginning of this year and we're looking at month over month appreciation gain, it tells a little bit different story. Where at the beginning of the year, we started out around $360,000. We peaked at $404,000 back in March, and then we dropped down just a little bit to our current position of $398,000. So we normally see a little bit of fluctuation as we go throughout the year, but overall, even year over year, we're still pretty steady, still pretty strong compared to this time last year. We haven't lost significantly like some other markets around Houston or even around the state of Texas, and Lord knows nationally, there have been some big nosedives that we've seen in some markets around there. Okay, so next up with home values, I want to chunk this down into different price categories, because this is really going to blow your mind when you see what price categories are trending upward, maybe staying steady, and where the most explosive growth has come from. So first off, we're going to break it down between $300,000 and $400,000. We saw a pretty significant jump from this time last year to now in terms of total home sales. In fact, last month we saw 104 homes sell between $300,000 and $400,000. Now that's 25% up from this time last year. If we look at kind of the mid-range between $500,000 and $700,000, we saw it stay pretty steady compared to this time last year. We're looking at a difference of really only 2 home sales. We saw 54 home sales this last month. We saw 56 a year ago. Now get ready to blow your mind, because the upper end of the market, homes $700,000 and up, has absolutely exploded. We saw a 90% increase in total home sales from this time this month to this time last year, we saw this number jump from 30 home sales a year ago to 57 home sales last month in spring, over $700,000. And here in a little bit, I'm going to talk about which neighborhoods are blowing up the most right now, and you're going to see why the upper end of the market has seen such a surge in home sales. All right, next up, we're going to break down current inventory levels, days on market, and how this affects buyers and sellers in today's market. And this is where the numbers really start to kind of mess with your head a little bit. Because I think when you look at the numbers nationally, everyone's talking about increasing inventory. I've been singing this tune for the first 4 or 5 months of the year here, but the data today that we're breaking down starts to tell a little bit different story. We're starting to see inventory shrink back down to months of inventory supply, currently at 3.3 months. Now, when we talk about this, when we define supply, we're talking about if no new homes came on the market, no more new listings, how long would it take for us to sell every single active listing out there on the market? Well, the answer right now, 3.3 months, we would be done out of homes completely. Now, when we look at buyer's market versus seller's market, we're looking at a balanced market would be about 5 or 6 months of available inventory. Anything under that time frame is going to be more of a seller's market. Anything over that time frame is going to be more of a buyer's market. So 3.3 months, we're still in a seller's market, but we're seeing the inventory level shrink. So last year, end of the year going to first quarter of 2025, we saw inventories levels back up to 5 and even 6 months of inventory. So we were shifting heavily towards a buyer's market. And it feels like all of a sudden, literally in the last few weeks, we hit the brakes. And now we're starting to see sales pick up. We're starting to see inventory levels drop down. But let's talk about average days on market. Right now, average days on market are also falling. We really got to this point here where, pandemic, COVID levels, things like that, things were flying off the market in 3 or 4 days with multiple offers. Well, that trend ended. We started going back up to a more normal market where we saw maybe 30 to 45 days as average on market. Well, right now, June 2025, 21 days. Now, this is all across spring. So you have to understand that on a higher 5,000 foot overview level, we are seeing days on market shrink a little bit along with the inventory. But you got to take a closer look at what's going on within your neighborhood specifically, because the conversation I'm having with home sellers right now, guys, pricing has never been more crucial. In the old days, you could fudge $20,000, $25,000, maybe $50,000 depending on price point, and probably still be in the ballpark. Now, that's really not the case. Pricing is so crucial. And even if you're off by 1% or 2%, it may mean the difference in your home selling in a reasonable amount of time or being one of the outliers that does sit on the market for maybe a couple of months, 4 months, 5 months without much activity at all. We're gonna break that down a little bit further here in the video. So the other thing to take into consideration is what is the sold price to list price ratio. This is always a very interesting statistic to look at because right now, on average, again, this is an average, sellers are giving up about a 2.5% discount in order to get the home sold. Now, depending on price point, that may not add up to a whole lot of money for your specific property. But this is an average number. We have to consider your neighborhood features, your neighborhood factors, what's going on in your local community. So item number 3 on our list that we're going to talk about here is what's going on with mortgage interest rates, because this directly impacts a buyer's purchasing power and their affordability with buying a home. So right now, what we're seeing with interest rates is with a conventional 30-year loan, they've been hovering in the upper 6s. Now, of course, this is credit dependent, so we'll have to get you with our mortgage lender to make sure what your specific interest rate could be. But in general terms, conventional rates right now are hovering in the upper 6s, while FHA and VA are kind of in that mid 6s, just under 6.5%. So there's a lot of ways to get creative with interest rates out there right now. And one big strategy that we're seeing kind of revisit itself when interest rates first started to shift and we came out of the COVID pandemic and money was still super cheap, and then all of a sudden interest rates went to 4%. Everybody panicked and freaked out. We started to see the interest rate buy down become a really big tool to use for new construction homes and also with resale and home sellers. So we're still seeing the mortgage interest rate buy down as a very effective tool, a very effective strategy to negotiate. Instead of just reducing list price, you can negotiate some seller concessions to go towards an interest rate buy down to take you from maybe 6.5 to upper 5s. I've even seen some new construction communities 4.99% where the builder will pay those closing costs pay that interest rate buy down to get you to that mortgage interest rate, which makes a huge difference on your affordability and your purchasing power because your monthly payment reduces by such a dramatic effect. And for home sellers, this can also be a very unique strategy for you guys as well. Not just as a benefit to the buyer, but instead of sacrificing on purchase price, this is a creative way for you to still get the purchase price you might still be looking for, but you can contribute to the buyer's ability to afford the home, and this opens up the playing field to a lot more home buyers out there for you. So something strategic to consider, but again, this comes down to the numbers and crunching down to understand what are your goals, what is your net you're trying to get at the end of the day, can we make this work? And if so, it's a very great solution. And if not, don't worry, we got a lot of different marketing strategies that we can employ for you guys to bring more buyers online through your front door so you can end up with the right offer. All right, item number 4 on the list, we're gonna highlight some of the best selling, most popular neighborhoods here in the Spring area. So what are those key neighborhoods that you might not have thought of previously? You might want to keep an eye on as an up and coming great value buy now before it continues to explode over the summer. So the first one I want to talk about, and this correlates to what we saw earlier in the video where the upper end of the market has started to skyrocket in terms of number of sales. There's a neighborhood out there you might not be familiar with, Bender's Landing and Bender's Landing Estates. Now Spring, Texas, 77386, couple of highlights of Bender's Landing and the estate section. So you're gonna have an incredibly low tax rate, talking sub 2%. I've seen them as low as 1.7, 1.8%. It's a larger acreage community. So all of the lots are gonna be a half acre to an acre. You're gonna have an HOA in there, but the lifestyle in Bender's Landing is awesome, man. You got these large acre lots, custom homes, high-end finishes throughout the neighborhoods. So if that's what you're looking for in terms of a little bit more elbow room while still having some new build opportunities, there's a lot of vacant lots out there where you can purchase those, bring in your own builder, and build the home of your dreams custom from the ground up. A couple other neighborhoods to keep an eye on would be Harmony, which is located right outside of Bender's Landing, still 77386. It's Conroe ISD. I had a listing in there last month. We put it on the market. Little single-story home with a pool behind the gates. It was a gated neighborhood. We sold it in less than a week. We had multiple offers. It just went bananas. Some neighborhoods that you might want to keep an eye on the the west side of Interstate 45. Take an area like Glenlock Farms, master plan community in Spring Klein School District, home of about 3,000 neighborhoods. On average, we're seeing homes sell at about 30 to 45 days. But right now, there still are some homes out there that are selling super quick, and they're selling with competitive offers. Why? Because the home has been properly staged, it's been properly presented, it's emotionally appealing to those home buyers out there. So there is still the opportunity for the multiple offer scenario if you're a home seller. On the buyer side of the fence, you have to be really prepared to compete if it's the right home, And I can strategize with you a little bit more on that. I've worked through a ton of multiple offer opportunities very successfully with some clients just recently. Great story to tell about them as well. Okay, for the next couple of steps here, I'm gonna break this down to sellers and buyers specifically. How is this market impacting our home sellers right now? I mentioned this earlier and it still rings true. Pricing is so crucial right now in today's market. One thing we cannot control when it comes to selling your home is what's going on around us, the competitive landscape around you, other listings that are on the market. We don't wanna be the reason why every single home sells in the neighborhood. You want them to be the reason why you're the next sale in the neighborhood. So strategic pricing comes into key play here because it's not just historical data, what is sold previously. You've got to know the trends. What direction is the market heading so that you can advantageously position yourself compared to what the competition is out there on the market. The other thing we do to offer our sellers a competitive advantage, we work with one of the best home stagers in the business. Now, I cover the cost of my home stager to come into your home, meet with you one-on-one, go through your home room by room, produce a written report with links to Pinterest boards and different examples of how you can stage the home to appeal at the highest level to the home buyers out there. The biggest key about home staging is it appeals to the emotional side of the home buyer, which is what you're really going for. And what our home stager does better than anybody else is position yourself to look better than every other home on the market. So right now, as we head into the summer season, summer is still a strong season to be on the market. Historically, we see more home buyers moving around during the summer because we're in between school, right? People want to move for schools, they want to get located and settle before school starts. So summer, especially with what we're seeing with current inventory trends right now, summer's a great season for you. And if you're thinking about putting your home on the market or just curious of what your home might be worth, check out the links below. That's where you can find out my market valuation page, or just call or text me directly and we'll get you squared away. So on the flip side of that coin, what's going on with the home buyers in today's market? Let's break this down because there really still are some incredible opportunities out there. We talked about rate buy downs. Now what you're gonna have to define first and foremost as a home buyer, what's most important to you? Is it the discount off the purchase price of the home, or is it the rate? Is it the monthly payment and your affordability and the lifestyle you can still live with buying a new home? It's a big purchase, we know that. We don't want to overextend you guys. So we need to get clear on what's most important to you in that regard, because that's going to, one, help us shape and find the community that's right for you. But two, how do we structure the deal? How do we structure this in a way that you still can be able to live within your own lifestyle and live this lifestyle of your dreams and not just spend every dime you've got on making your housing payment every month? So start early, get a game plan together to identify what's most important for you. Get your pre-approval done. If you guys are shopping for a mortgage loan officer, please let me know, because I have the best mortgage loan officer in the business, more competitive on rate, more competitive on fees, knows how to structure a deal to give you the monthly payment that you're looking for. So important, so crucial to team up with the right people to get you guys to the finish line in a comfortable environment. All right, and we're gonna wrap up with the question kind of alluded to earlier, so I may have given this answer away, but for those of you that stuck around, is this a buyer's market? Is this a seller's market? The answer is we're still in a seller's market. Now, this is more localized and to date, because earlier this year, I would have told you, yeah, we're heading towards a buyer's market, which is true. But right now, June of 2025, we've seen inventory shrink down a little bit. We've seen days on market shrink down a little bit along with supply. That is trending back in the direction of a seller's market. Remember all the tips and tricks I just gave you through this whole video. It doesn't mean it's a bad time to buy. It means about prioritizing what's most important to you. Home sellers out there as well, it's a great season. So whether you're buying, whether you're selling, there is a strategy. There is a way to make this work for you guys, but I've got to understand what's most important to you so that I can advise. You guys can decide what the best thing to do is for you and your family. I'd love to connect with you. Hit me up on one of the links below. Call or text 281-660-4797. I look forward to talking to you real soon.